Welcome to Ecclesia Principles, a biblical strategy for believers to engage in God's design for government with Ray Eppard.
Hello, glad you could join us again today. We're continuing to talk about the jurisdiction of the family. And right now we're looking at ways that the family jurisdiction can be undermined. And where we left off yesterday, we were talking about some of the phrases and the words and terms that you will hear today. And I want to pick up with that and go further. But first, Romans 13:4, the A section is really our text for all of this. He, government officials, is God's minister to you for good. That's God's intent, that's God's design. But then that official may or may not do what God wants them to do. That's why they have to give an account for what they do. But with this, understanding that the family, very often the attack on the family comes from government. The attack on family frequently comes from government when you look at history. And with this, I want to start switching, and next week we're going to talk about things to do to help protect the family, things that we need to be for in order to help the family. But you see, with this, keeping the family jurisdiction, understanding children, obey your parents, that children are in the jurisdiction of the family, and the parents are the head of that jurisdiction. They are the ones that have lawful speech. They are the ones that get to say about their children. Now, obviously, if they're inflicting harm, and I'm not talking about, you see, we're in a place right now in our country where harm is defined by thoughts. Harm is defined by belief systems. And I understand that can impact people. But we're supposed to have freedom of speech, and we're supposed to have freedom of conscience. The harm I'm talking about is where you're actually doing physical and emotional harm, not the ideology. Even if it's an ideology I disagree with, the family gets to raise those children the way they choose to raise them. Now, at this point, keeping that jurisdiction. But there are so many politicians in our country today that are trying to blur that line. Blur the line. The children are all of our children. That is nothing but saying, in all reality, the children are wards of the state. The children belong to all of us. They don't belong to the parents. They belong to all of us. And when you buy into that type of thinking, you are destroying the nuclear family. Because what government always does when it begins to take the children, Hitler, he did that when he came to power. Mao did that in China when he came to power and started separating the children from their parents. Actually had the children turn on their parents. We've got a little bit of that going on today, but if we're not careful, it's going to get worse. The bottom line, as we have said, is the family is really the building blocks of society. We have to preserve that. We have to make sure, if you would, government understands family jurisdiction. And if you read the Bill of Rights, you will find that in the Bill of Rights, everything there was a limitation on government. And the move today in the current culture is to remove the restraints from government. We don't need to be doing that. Join us again next week.
You've been listening to Ecclesia Principles with Ray Eppard. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook on our Ray Eppard pages. This program was brought to you by Victory Worship Center and World Outreach. Services Sunday 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, 200 Hammond Lane, Stanton, Virginia.